The European race spices up with 10 games to go. In form, Fabian Hurzeler Brighton sit just 3 points off the top 4 after a last gasp Joao Pedro penalty edged the Seagulls the win over Fulham. That's now 6 wins on the bounce for Brighton. So for this video, I intend to zoom in on their 2-1 win against Marco Silva's Fulham, giving a quick debrief on Brighton's system, then looking at the two teams and how they set up, their tactics, and how they managed to overcome fellow European fighting Fulham. Let's go. So if you've been watching my channel as of late, you'll be aware that I did a video last Wednesday on Fabian Hurzeler's shift in tactics. So if you'd like to see a more detailed presentation of Hurzeler's setup, then feel free to check that out too. But if you're here to stay, I'll give you a quick run through. From a low build-up, a 2-4-4 shape that they maintain when in the middle third and pushing higher. It may shift into a 3-2-5 or 2-3-5 if a fullback or midfielder from the pivot commits forward, but the shape is fairly consistent, with constant rotations amongst the forward line supported by the flexible skill sets of their attackers. They attack with quick passing combos and direct passes from deep. Off the ball, they are an aggressive man-to-man side that push very high in a 4-4-2 shape, but once they are forced back into their own half, it transitions into a 5-4-1. Yakubu Minta, the right winger, joins the back line to make it a back 5. When pushed extremely deep, then everybody's back, including the striker, to compact the space, but as a way to counter that and escape from their half and push the opponents back, it shifts from a 5-4-1 into a 5-2-3, with Rutter and Mitoma joining Joao Pedro so they can trigger the press again. That's the summary. Let's take our focus to the game. So Brighton wins into this great form. Fulham going into this pretty good form. So this was going to be a very interesting encounter. Both going for Europe with just a point dividing the two teams. This is how Brighton set up. One change from the FA Cup win at St James's Park as Ayali came in for the suspended Tariq Lamptey. And this is how Fulham set up. Notably, Silva went for his 3-4-2-1 setup that he alters between. The first 15 to 30 minutes were even. Both teams looked secure, both on the ball and within the defensive transition. Mitoma was doing well 1v1 as usual. Minter's energy in the defensive transition was top, and Hinshelwood and Baleba were looking sharp. Baleba receiving the ball in half term is amazing, but his ability to drift by a player and retain possession is just effortless. But I want to mention Jack Hinshelwood because to me he is the ultimate tool that Fabian Hurzeler can use. The man can play midfield, left back and right back. He gives Brighton that tactical flexibility but also the assurity in all areas of the pitch and the consistency. It's no coincidence that Brighton win more games when he plays. The 2-4-4 from deep was evident and consistent throughout the game, but it was a little more free-flowing and adaptable when higher up. Yassin Ayali, who was next to Baleba in the pivot, would push up a lot into the half spaces, but generally dipped in and out. When he pushed up, it was a 3-2-5, as the Spiltanan would tuck inside into the back line, making it free, and Hinshelwood's role would vary a lot. He could maintain his position as a fullback close to Baleba and the back line when need be. He could push further out wide so he was an easy free pass away as Emil Smith-Rowe pressed more narrowly. He could directly invert and join Baleba in the pivots. He could even push further up and hold width going forward as Minter could come inside. Hinshelwood gives him the opportunity to alter a little, and Hurzeler hands him the creative freedom to do so, knowing he can get back should they lose the ball and he can cut out play just fine. Hinshelwood definitely has more instruction to manoeuvre around, but Spiltanan still has his moments too when he can push forward to allow Mitoma to drift inside and combine overall with the Japanese winger, making a 2v1, which is exactly what led to Fulham's goal. Spiltanan bombs forward trying to get onto the end of the ball, but he fails. Iwobi then uses his pace and power to carry it forwards to put an outstanding cross for Raul Jimenez to put away. It's harsh, but that's the counter-attacking quality and transition that Fulham have. But it's a good job that quality doesn't consist everywhere, because Brighton responded just 6 minutes later. It was a brilliant ball from a set piece. Horrid marking as Van Heck places it right off the post and in. It was game on. First half was very even, but I thought Brighton were a little bit more dangerous. Minter and Mitoma as runners were being found in dangerous areas and behind. They just needed to get Rutter and Joao Pedro more involved in the game and in link-up. Minter for me was super effective. Out of possession he's a very hard working as we see with his system, but today was a great presentation. Off the ball his role differed slightly to other games. Usually Brighton pressed in a 4-4-2, Minter and Mitoma as the wingers pushed onto the fullbacks. However, due to Fulham's altering system, they had wing-backs, so it was more of a 5-2-3 shape because Anthony Robertson, the left wing-back, who was very dangerous as we know going forward, would push much higher, meaning Minter couldn't leave that gap behind. So the front three of Mitoma, Pedro and Rutter would press the back three, and Minter would take care of Robinson and jump onto him as soon as he gets the ball, and Espiotanan would take care of Castagne, and they both did a sterling job in limiting the pair. Now because of this, you sacrifice naturally Minter getting as far forwards as he'd like, but this doesn't eliminate all benefits. He still finds himself in positions high up, threatening Bassey and Robinson, but due to his sheer and explosive speed, it means whenever he got the ball on a turnover from deep, he would come racing forwards very fast and allow Brighton to attack much faster overall down this side. But apart from Minter being slightly deeper in that off-the-ball shape, it was the same as usual. Still a 5-4-1 that would transition into a 5-2-3 to push the opponents back, and it was limiting Fulham brilliantly, as that goal was the only shot on target that they would have all game long. It was an even half, as I've mentioned, but apart from that one breakaway, Brighton contained them and their attacking threats very well. Raul Jimenez and Iwobi, besides the goal, quiet and physically struggled. Emil Smith-Rowe locked up with 1 out of 8 ground duels won. Anthony Robertson and Timothy Castagne had 0 accurate crosses. The Seagulls were comfortable. Second half gets going and Brighton looked good, the better team. Ayari kept pushing forward with a lone pivot of Baleba. Baleba could push up with the ball, but not to join the attackers, but to push them further on forwards and create more space for the centre-backs, but he would also drop in for the pass when need be. You can play Baleba in a lone pivot because we know he's monstrous off the ball, and Brighton overall are very athletic as a team. It's quite a common theme all game that Fulham struggle to break away from the counters, besides the goal of course. Because the fullbacks are fairly stationary and close to play, Baleba isn't isolated. However, let's get back to the game. The quick passing combos between Rutter and Pedro were starting to set off, and Joao Pedro easily could have netted. Brighton did net early though, but it was offside, one of their 2 offside goals, with the first coming from Joao Pedro consuming in players nicely for Minter to run into good space. Diego Gomez came on for Ayali in midfield, who introduced himself into the game really well. Fulham was struggling to get out as it already was, so to add Gomez's engine to the mix where his anticipation and breakup of play could cause problems, this meant more turnovers and more dominance. And because you have an athletic pivot of Baleba and Gomez, it meant that you can slowly commit more men forward, which they did, and that Fulham just couldn't break away at all. They had the athleticism to do this. Hinshelwood would push further up, so would Espiotanan too. Even out of possession, it started to look like a 4-4-2 again, with Minter pushing up as Brighton were being more brave because the win was in their hands. As simple as that. More and more blue shirts would pour the box, they continued to create chances and really started to overwhelm Fulham. Minter was causing serious problems. Every time Fulham tried to soak up pressure, then kill Brighton on the break, it never worked. The defensive transition and determination of the team was top, especially in the latter stages, where those numbers back really mattered. Fulham had a fair bit of the ball, but they did nothing with it. Fulham had 3 shots in the second half, 1 fairly wide, 1 blocked, and 1 well over the bar. Brighton, defensively, limited them exceptionally. The chances kept on coming, and offside even arrived again, but they finally got their moments. Adringa finds Welbeck, who holds up the ball, looks to turn, loses it quite poorly, as Joao Pedro throws himself in front of Harrison Reed to win a penalty. It was harsh, but but you can't say that Brighton didn't deserve it. A great performance overall from the Seagulls. There were two fairly even teams in the first half, but that second half showed a completely different story. Brighton were superior, defensively strong and secure all half long. They controlled the game, they created 3 big chances, and honestly, with a better day in front of net, they win that game by 3 or 4-1 and not just a 2-1. Thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy, then make sure to smash a like and subscribe to the channel. I asked the same question last week in my Fabian Hurzeler video, but could Brighton actually go and get Champions League football? It's a 3-point gap, they've got Manchester City next, but it's possible. Or will they achieve Europa League football or even conference? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.